world, and I'm so happy to be invited today to be with Open in Indiana and to talk about sweat the small stuff. You know, it's really a play on a phrase that a lot of people have heard over the years. In fact, I first reacted to "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, Mr. Basham," on September the 9th, 2001, when I was the director of guidance in Muncie, Indiana. And as you know, on 9/11, it was nothing but chaos around the world. But as the director of guidance in my school in Muncie, Indiana, I was in charge of ISTEP, which is Indiana's high stakes assessment to determine whether sophomores, juniors, and seniors had mastered standards in language arts and math. And I had been assured by my principal that all the details were covered and we were ready to go. We came in on that morning and none of the details were covered. We were faced with a lot of unanswered questions, students not knowing exactly where they were going. And someone said to me, "Mr. Basham, don't sweat the small stuff." But I reacted to him by saying, "Sir, if we had sweat the small stuff, we would not be in the middle of all of this chaos." And so from that experience, I have put together a presentation that I've given to a number of clubs over the years called "Sweat the Small Stuff." Because as an old production guy, you see, part of my past life was as the director of a theater program in Muncie for nearly 20 years. It made all the sense in the world for me to be able to sleep at night if I had taken care of details. And I knew that when I invited an audience and the curtain opened, that on opening night, all of the details would reveal themselves in a fine production. And I guarantee you, as leader of your nonprofit, of your Rotary Club, of your Kiwanis Club, of your Lions Club, whatever club, nonprofit you manage, if you sweat the small stuff, your people will be grateful to you, because that means you've taken care of the details before the lights come on, before you have people in your audience and ready for something important you have to tell them. This series of slides is just a series of lessons I have learned over the years that will, I believe, help you bring power to your nonprofit. As a speech teacher, I used to always say to my students, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And during these times of COVID, when we are more likely to be Zooming rather than meeting in live groups, it's still important for you to make a first impression. If you have a Zoom meeting and you're not ready, and it shows when you have people come to your meeting, they will find a number of reasons to be somewhere else. We live in a fast-paced society. We have all kinds of options. Before COVID hit, we could be at church, we could be with families, we could be dining out with our families, we could be taking our children to basketball practice or ballet practice. We do not have to come to this club meeting. So make it worth your while, and a first impression is key. I always say dress for success. If you're going to shake hands, and eventually we'll be shaking hands again, make sure you make eye contact, you greet your guests with cheer and with confidence and with love in your heart, and they will want to come back for more. Also, very key to a first impression is a business card. I always tell my students and my friends, my colleagues, make sure you have a business card that people will remember. We have in our back rooms, our offices, our kitchens, stacks of business cards that are one just like the other. Make sure your business card stands out. It's remembered. My business card is a square, and it has a big Basham 34. It's completely branded. It's unusual. It's not at all like everybody else's business card, and it makes a first impression as soon as you see it. Remember, you only get one chance to make a first impression. This is a story that has become known all over with my friends as Squirrel on a Log. Back when I was a little boy in the 3rd grade, I had mastered the art of drawing perspective. I had figured out how to draw hills and a winding road, and I drew a little picture for my 3rd grade teacher to present for art class. And there it was, a beautiful winding road going up to a cottage with smoke billowing out of the chimney. And my 3rd grade teacher handed back that picture to all of us, and she showed it in front of the class and said, "Dale, this picture is wonderful." And I was so thrilled with the accolades that I took that picture and I thought, you know what, I am going to add something to it so that she will like my picture even more than just this picture of a cabin in the distance with clouds and a winding road up to this cabin at the base of mountains. So I decided in the forefront I was going to draw a picture with a squirrel on a log. I thought that would just add so much to that picture. Well, you know, one thing I could do was draw a picture of a cottage and a winding road into the distance. But you know what I couldn't do? I could not draw a picture of a squirrel on a log. And you know what I did to that beautiful picture that Miss Cook gave back to me? I ruined it because I added so much detail. I added things to that picture that I could not do. You will be encountered with people on your committees and in your club who have all kinds of ideas of things for you to do. Oh, maybe it's design a big, beautiful float filled with this and with that. Maybe it's a program that adds so much detail, so much more to it than your original idea was. Stick to what you know how to do, because sometimes our projects get weighted down because they are so minutia laden. They are so filled with junk that we cannot do that the project dies by the weight of its own problems. So remember this story of the squirrel on a log. If you can draw a squirrel on a log, go for it. But if you can't, be happy with that beautiful cottage in the hills with a winding road on its way with perspective that you perfected for your 3rd grade teacher. Another lesson I learned about production came early in my career. I had just been hired as a speech and theater teacher and head of a theater program at my local high school here in Muncie. And I could draw beautiful sets. And my first year, I was a little nervous about being more than just an actor or a teaching coach, because I had to not only draw a design, but I had to build sets. I had to costume actors for the theater. I had to make sure they memorized their lines. I had to block them. I had to invite an audience. I had to do everything for a theater that I really did not know how to do before I actually jumped in and did them. Well, one thing I really could do was draw beautiful set designs. And that first year, I drew a gorgeous set with all kinds of detail, and presented it to my students, and we looked at it and we were so excited for the future. But one thing I really could not do beyond drawing that beautiful set design was to build it. And I did my best to create on the stage what I had created on the paper with pen and pad, but I did not know how to build as well as I could draw. So the lesson I learned after working a couple of summers in Ball State Theater as a volunteer, learning to build as well as I could draw. And my theater program took off because when I would draw a set, my students were convinced that together with my guidance, we could build that set. And when we opened those curtains, that set and the actors were ready for an audience. And my theater program grew and grew and grew because of this one meme that became famous in that wonderful baseball movie of long ago. If you build it, they will come. Learn how to do what you tell people you're going to do. As a president or a governor or a leader of a group of people, as you're getting ready to take charge of your organization, and in Rotary world, we are getting ready to change the guard on July the 1st. And many presidents are anticipating their year as their Rotary Club president or their Kiwanis Club president. We're getting ready to lead a group of people. You're putting together your teams to make sure that your year is the best that you can make it. I say to all of you, pay close attention to people who don't clap when you win. Those people, you do not want to invite them to be a part of your team. You want people on your team who are convinced that you are a great leader, and with their help, you can make this a wonderful organization. And I also say to you, one and all, stay away from negative people. They will find a problem for every solution. If you have the choice of choosing people in your club or organization to be a part of your team, choose the ones who are really committed to your leadership and who are positive and excited about the path forward. Now, I'm telling you, we all have different hands that we've been dealt. I was fortunate the year I became club president to be given a set of circumstances that I just loved. Number one, Jim Davis of Garfield, the Garfield creator, was a member of my club. My theme that year was Light Up Rotary, and I was able to take that theme along with the fact that Jim Davis, Garfield creator, and Garfield was actually a part of our Rotary Club mascot and motto. I was able to put together a program that really played up Light Up Rotary, and with the help of Jim Davis, made that happen. We did not have a lot of money that year, but we did have a lot of nonprofits who were willing to step up and help me put together a volunteer program that created a group of volunteers that didn't just write checks, but they committed to giving 25 hours of service to 9 nonprofits in my town. Those nonprofits submitted a list of hours, what those volunteers would be doing, who to call on the phone, the mission of each of those organizations, and the flap of that brochure that I handed out when I presented this whole idea to my club members. That flap was a tear off or a cutoff with a return address to me, and on that flap, they chose which nonprofit they wanted to commit to 25 hours, just 25 hours of service for the year. That's not very much at all. But what happened was once they committed to that nonprofit, they began to become invested in that nonprofit. And just 25 hours turned into 30, turned into 50, turned into a lifetime commitment to those nonprofit. To that nonprofit organization. And not only did we raise money for those nonprofits, but we raised time and treasure for my club members to jump in and participate in a nonprofit that was new and different for my Rotary Club members. Part of my deal is always to promote. I want to promote, and we have the best opportunity to promote for free with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And if you're not using a free social media, you might need to find a young club member who's very versatile and familiar with those platforms and help you promote your club. I would promote a presentation or an event in several days before they actually happen. We always meet on Tuesday at noon, and probably by Sunday, I was promoting what was getting ready to happen at noon. One of the other things that I did early in my year was to collaborate and connect with a number of people in my club that were connected to theaters in town. Not just the high school theaters, but also Ball State Theater, and also organizations such as churches that have productions. And I said to them early on, if you're having a special presentation, maybe you're doing Beauty and the Beast, maybe you're having a Broadway show come into town as a touring company, maybe you're having a singing group to come to your theater to perform. Bring them to Rotary on Tuesday. I will give them lunch, and they will perform. And my Rotary Club members during that entire year could expect a special surprise, some kind of performance, free of charge, every week. Maybe it was a flautist. Maybe it was a group of actors that were in town from a New York touring company. They would come to my Rotary Club. They would perform. They would give us free tickets. And don't you know, something beyond that I ever expected to be a ramification of that offer was that I would go to those free concerts on that Tuesday night or Wednesday night or Thursday night. And they would always talk about how wonderful Muncie Rotary was, who brought them in to perform, gave them lunch, talked about wonderful things going on in the community. It was free, it was available, and it really promoted my Rotary Club throughout the area. And my Rotary Club grew by leaps and bounds that year because my members never knew what to expect. My tagline that year was "Don't miss a minute," and you know what? It really caught on because people knew if they missed something, they would miss something really fun. I tell you, I made every meeting an event. One other trick that I played, I had been, as I said, a drama teacher and also became a guidance counselor and then a principal. One of the things that I learned very early on was that if I was having a group of people into my auditorium or for a meeting, I always made sure that I had a little sound system set up and I had instrumental music playing in the background. So I had pre-show music. As the meeting started, I would fade out the music and the meeting would begin. But as the meeting ended, I would fade back in the music. Now, it's very important that you not use music that is loud and vocal, because if people are coming into your meeting and they hear vocal music, they will sing along to that song, especially if they recognize it, rather than using that music as a backdrop for their conversation, their networking, their enjoying of one another. I have a special artist that I love who is excellent at this pre-show and post-show music. Her name is B.G. Adair, B-E-G-I-E, that's B-E-E-G-I-E, Adair. She used to play for Johnny Carson and also Johnny Cash. She did a lot of television shows during her day, but now she runs and produces for Green Hill Music, and they have a whole array of CD and streaming services of just this kind of music that will turn your meeting into a special event. I promise you, it will be worth the investment you make in a small music system that will play CDs or a streaming service for your members. Will love what that touch of music makes to the beginning and the end of every meeting. Don't forget to write thank you notes. It's a lost art. Honestly, I am currently a candidate. And of course, a big part of being a candidate is raising money. I have people who will send me a check for $5. I've had some send me a check for $1,500. Whether it's a $5 gift or a $1,500 gift, they get a handwritten thank you note from me. Every note is different. Every note is to them. I pop it in the mail, put a stamp on it, and send it through the U.S. Postal Service. Oh, it's much easier to write an email. It's much easier to write a text. But you know what? A handwritten thank you note is something special in today's world. And if you do that, I guarantee you, your audience, your members will appreciate it. They'll talk about you in a good way, and it will reap rich rewards. And another key part of publicizing your meeting is to let people know what they missed. Don't just publicize it, but show great pictures on Facebook or Instagram about what they missed. They will look at each other and say, oh, shoot, I missed that wonderful meeting. If they're at the water cooler over lunch after that meeting, they cannot participate because their friends are talking about, can you believe what he pulled out of his hat? Can you believe that they were able to find that artist to come and sing that special song? Can you believe that basketball coach came and spoke to us? It was so wonderful. It was so exciting. Shoot, I missed it. I won't miss it next week. I promise you that. Always remember, there's such a difference between being a boss and being a leader. I'm a hands-on leader. I will pull my weight. I will not sit on that platform demanding that others pull me to the promised land. I want to be leading the charge. My people know that I am one of them and not sitting back just cracking the whip. And finally, you know this famous meme, this famous picture. What the world sees of our success is just the tip of the iceberg. What they really don't see is hard work, the risk you take, the late nights, the struggles, the failures, the persistence, the action, the discipline, the courage, the doubt, the changes, the criticism, the disappointments, adversity, rejection, sacrifices. You know, this applies to my life for so many years, not only as a leader of a nonprofit, but as a political candidate. I guarantee you, men and women who want to be successful as leaders need to really make the commitment to go with what you believe is the best for your people, to sweat the small stuff, to give it all you have. They will look back and be grateful for all the work that you did for the cause. I want to say thank you, Ryan, to you and your audience for welcoming me today. And I'd love to take questions if there's time.
Yes, there's plenty of time for questions. Since we have Sharon who has joined on with us here, I will give her the first opportunity to ask you any questions if she has some.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I really appreciated it. I did miss the first part. Sorry, I was late. I don't have any questions right now. Ryan, maybe you could start and I would think of some.
Sure. So Dale, let me ask you this. In a nonprofit organization, there's always a time when members kind of fall off and are either resign their membership or distance themselves. What are some strategies that you have found have been helpful in readdressing that and getting those members back?
Well, I think as an emerging leader, which I know you are, Ryan, you have to convince those men and women who have decided that no longer is that club worth their time. You have to convince them, oh, no, 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 no. It is going to be worth your time. The meals are going to be better. The programs are going to be fun. We're going to have a little bit of music in the beginning, a little bit of music at the end. I promise you that this will not be your grandfather's Rotary Club. Although there's nothing wrong with your grandfather's Rotary Club. I was first attracted to Rotary because of my grandfather's Rotary Club. I just wanted to honor the work that men and women were doing in my grandfather's Rotary Club. But I knew that if our club was to grow, we had to become a valuable reason to leave your apartment, your house, your office, to do one more thing across town. We had to make it worth your while. So I say, make sure that your program chair is engaged and bringing in new and interesting people, that you offer a variety of things happening during each club meeting. I learned a lot about conducting an hour-long meeting when year after year I was in charge of teaching 25 or 30 high school students. I had to keep them engaged and interested. I taught elective classes, speech and theater. They didn't have to take my classes if they didn't want to. I relied on them to want to be in my classroom, to fill my schedule, and to keep my job. So I decided very early on that I needed to be an edutainer. And you know, I've used that word often. And many of my kids come back to me and on the campaign trail, when I'm out and about, oh, Mr. Basham, you're the reason why I am where I am, because your speech classes were so much fun. Your drama classes were wonderful. I learned to be a team player in your classes. So you've got to find a way to edutain. I did not come up with the word until I was a high school principal, and I was interviewing candidates to teach math. And of course, they would come in to interview with me for a 45-hour interview. And there would be times that I was so bored with the interview, I was reminded of my poor students who had to sit there day in and day out with someone who could not turn up the volume on the on adding and subtracting, on division, on whatever the math concept was. They had to make it meaningful and interesting to that class of students that would rather do something else than math. So I decided that I was going to start hiring edutainers. For good or for ill, it's important, if you're presenting in front of a group of people, that you hold their attention and that you edutain them.
And so when you have a dynamic of an organization that starts to shift, how do you address some of those people who want it to stay the grandfather's vision of what the organization was?
You know what, Ryan, that's the question that is facing service clubs all over the world. And you know, COVID-19 didn't help things at all. We were forced to stop doing what we've always done and forced to rely on Zoom. And even though Zoom was a great alternative, it did not address the need to socialize and to network and to sit at a table with friends and have breakfast or lunch or a beverage. So I would encourage the people who really came in their own during this during our days with the Zoom Lounge to continue to use technology to up our game, to make it more interesting, to bring us into the current century, and to to edutain our people with through technology. Continue to develop your technology skills, because you know what, we've already discovered how important it is to have technology to continue to meet. Thank you for being a good example to me and teaching me how to Zoom better than I did before. But I would encourage that new breed of service oriented young people to continue to use and advocate technology as we go into live club meetings.
I thought of a couple little questions.
Yes.
Not so deep. One is, do you have your business card that you could show right now?
You know,
If not, it's okay.
I had tons of those business cards. I don't have any right on me.
Sharon, I would be happy to make the introduction with you to Dale immediately following this webinar today.
Okay, I just wanted to see what it looked like, really.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what? You talk amongst yourself. I'll get one. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't. That was a trick question.
A trick question. Well, here's one that you probably can answer, I'm sure, with no worries. I know for me, getting things either posted or receiving things that people post on social media, sometimes people give like too much, and sometimes people give not enough. Where do you think it should be? How many times a week, or what kind of things should be posted on the social media?
Well, of course, it certainly depends on your it depends on the subject. If you're promoting a meeting, if you're promoting a project, you know, Facebook ads will often run every other day. I like to keep it upbeat and positive and different. I'm a poster. I do a lot of posting. So there are those who say you probably shouldn't post every other day or every day, but you know what? I do. I want to let my people know what's going on in my world. And as district governor, I was in different clubs and participating in social service projects all the time. And I wanted people not only in my district to know how fantastic we were, but I wanted people around the world to know what was going on in central Indiana. Maybe, Ryan, you could speak to that regarding last year when I was district governor, and this year when there is not so many postings going on social media. Might you compare the 2 years?
Yes. So the best way to look at the answer to the question is it's all about the quality of the content that goes into the post. So if what you're putting up is just basic bare bones information about what point you're trying to get across, you don't want to do that too overly frequent, because then it disconnects your audience. They unfollow, they unlike, they go other places. However, if you find a way to construct something that's colorful and fun and entertaining and draws you in, then you can get away with putting a little more in front of people. It's all about being able to delicately balance the here's the information you need to know with here's how to make it not sound monotonous and just the same stuff you've seen 100 times before.
And you know, I would also say, if you have a good graphic artist in your nonprofit to brand your year, you will notice that this PowerPoint was designed based on the colors and the branding of our theme last year, which was Be the Inspiration. I had an architect and a graphic designer who was a Rotarian who changed my PowerPoint template seasonally. This is my spring and summer PowerPoint, but he had a darker version of the same colors for my autumn and winter PowerPoint. So all of my colorway, all of my posting used that seasonal branding that was the same and yet different and new seasonally. So find a good, if you're getting ready to take over a nonprofit or you're a part of a nonprofit now, find a good graphic designer in your on your team that can help you brand your year as governor or president or CEO of your organization, and your business cards as well, so that it all matches.
Thank you.
Let's see. Trying to think. So Dale, as an educator perspective and as someone who served a nonprofit organization, what are some ways that nonprofits can appeal to those who are graduating and just coming out into the world?
Well, I would say, again, you have to speak to their sense of service. No longer is it enough to say, we are Rotarians, we are Methodists, we are Kiwanians. We have to offer some reason for them to come to our service organization and volunteer and do service projects. I don't think it's enough anymore just to offer a group a networking opportunity to come to lunch and to come to breakfast. You have to offer them a reason to give up their time from their families, their churches, their businesses, their free time to come and be a part of your organization. You just have to make it worth people's while. You have to market your club in a special way that is special to your area. I know that, Ryan, you and your club take care of a certain part of Indianapolis. And I would suggest that you brand your club with some of the landmarks in the area where you all serve. And really get involved in the community around where most of your club members live or work.
So that brings up a very important question then that I should ask. Is it a good idea to partner with other organizations if they have a project that's, the same kind of thing that you want to get into? Is there opportunity there?
I think there is opportunity, but it depends on the organization. Sometimes people want to go it alone. In my own town, there are 2 Rotary clubs, and there's a morning club and an afternoon club, or a noon club. And we rarely do many projects together just because our focus, our membership, we're just different, and we just have a different focus. But if you can find other organizations to partner with, you just double your pleasure, and you double the opportunity to connect with your community.
Awesome. Let's see. Sharon, do you have any other questions for Dale?
No, I enjoyed the presentation, though, the edutainment part of it.
That's the takeaway, isn't it? Make it fun, make it light, make it entertaining, but make it important and educational as well.
So One last question that I'd like to close with today, since I know there's a lot of organizations that are probably thinking about this. How can organizations go the road of soliciting monetary donations in good taste or without coming off as anything but the reason why they're there to serve?
Well, it really is about the cause, isn't it? I, for many years, raised money to help eradicate polio. It was such an easy cause to rally people, especially an older generation whose lives had been paralyzed by polio. They all knew people in their neighborhood who had polio. They remember those awful days when polio hit, and we were all affected by it. But now we have new causes that we have to address, and I think we, as a service-minded group of people, need to look around us and find what the need is, where people are hurting, those people who need what we have to offer. And then we raise money to help those in need. I think that's just the bottom line. It's been especially difficult, I know, during COVID-19, because there's been such economic pain on everyone that it's hard to go out and raise money in the middle of all of this. But if you have a cause that people are willing to rally around, that cause will bring in time and treasure, and you can help solve those problems for the people around you. It's why I have been a Rotarian. It's now why I'm running for office.
Great. Well, Dale, thank you so much for being our speaker today. And Sharon, thank you for joining us on Zoom for the live discussion. And to everyone who watched here on Facebook Live today, thank you for watching. Have a great afternoon, and don't forget to stay dry. I believe Central Indiana still has some rain this evening.
And sweat the small stuff. You'll be glad you did.